Welcome back to Luminous Star Fables. Today, I want to take a deeper dive into financial abuse that can take place within the constructs of narcissistic relationships. Let's talk about Britney Spears' conservatorship, since it seems to mirror what many survivors of narcissistic abuse experience, especially when they decide to leave a controlling relationship or family system, whereas they have also experienced financial abuse. For anyone who wishes to comprehend Britney Spears' post-conservatorship behaviors, it is important to first deconstruct the environment that shaped them. The patterns of dysregulation and self-destructive action observed today are not spontaneous. They are the direct result of a meticulously constructed system of control that operated for over a decade. Understanding this architecture is the foundational step in any clinical analysis of the case. The ongoing struggles of Britney Spears serve as a powerful and public case study in the profound, long-term impact of systemic abuse. Her post-conservatorship journey demonstrates that the removal of external control does not automatically resolve the deep internal programming left by years of trauma. For 13 years, Britney Spears existed in a state of dual reality. To the public, she was a global pop icon, a powerful and productive superstar. In her private reality, however, she had almost zero control over her career, finances, and personal life, with every decision managed under an incredibly restrictive legal conservatorship. This stark contrast between public image and private powerlessness is a hallmark of systemic abuse. Experts point to the narcissistic family system as a potential explanatory model for the origins of this control. This is a toxic family dynamic in which children are assigned specific roles to serve the emotional needs of a narcissistic parent. The system is not designed for the child's development, but for the parent's validation. Within this system, two key roles are often identified. The special child, who is raised to feel superior, serving as a reflection of the parent's perceived greatness, and the scapegoat, who is blamed for all the family's problems and is subjected to constant criticism until they feel they can do nothing right. This foundational role fosters deep-seated feelings of inadequacy that can fuel a lifelong need for external validation, such as the camera as a mother figure, and profoundly complicate the ability to form healthy relationships in adulthood. Financial abuse was a primary pillar of the control system, functioning as a deliberate strategy to restrict access to and management of money. This form of abuse is often disguised as care, making it particularly insidious and difficult for the victim to identify. Compounding these personal challenges is a profound sense of isolation and a systemic reluctance from her family to intervene, even in the face of dangerous behaviors. The source material notes that the subject's father was crucified in the media for actions he claimed were aimed at saving her life. This public backlash has created a chilling effect, discouraging family members from setting boundaries or attempting to provide support for fear of similar public condemnation. This isolation is extreme. Sources report that Ms. Spears has never had friends who weren't on the payroll, and her primary means of communication is through direct messages. She exists in a transactional world, which severely limits her ability to form the genuine, supportive relationships necessary for recovery. This combination of an abrupt, unsupported transition and deep-seated relational trauma has created a volatile and high-risk environment for the survivor. In the case of Britney Spears, it seems that a major systemic failure in the way long-term conservatorships and other controlling environments are ended. Instead of providing a gradual, supported transition, the individual was moved abruptly from total control to total autonomy with no guidance, training, or safety net. This left her extremely vulnerable and struggling to manage freedom she had never been allowed to practice. The situation demonstrates the urgent need for legal, clinical, and therapeutic systems to create structured transition plans that help people rebuild skills, autonomy, and internal stability after years of externally imposed control. There are underlying dynamics that seem to mirror what many survivors of narcissistic abuse experience when the choice to leave a controlling relationship or narcissistic family structure is contemplated. What narcissistic abuse survivors can learn from this case? Even though this situation involves a conservatorship, the underlying dynamics mirror what many survivors of narcissistic abuse experience when they finally leave a controlling relationship or family system. Several trauma-informed insights emerge. Here are 6 trauma-informed insights. Leaving the system is not the same as recovering from it. Freedom does not automatically undo years of psychological conditioning. Survivors often expect to feel instantly better once they leave, but the internal programming, fear responses, and self-doubt remain. This case shows that healing requires time, support, and intentional relearning. Sudden independence can feel overwhelming, not liberating. Just like someone ending a conservatorship, survivors may feel unprepared to make decisions, manage finances, set boundaries, or trust themselves. This is not a personal failure, it is the predictable result of long-term control. Skills can weaken when they are never allowed to develop. When someone else has dictated your choices, emotions, finances, or identity, you don't get the chance to build the muscles of autonomy. Survivors can take comfort in knowing that needing help, structure, or guidance after leaving abuse is normal. Support systems matter, and many survivors don't have them. The case highlights how dangerous it is to expect someone to just figure it out after years of control. Survivors benefit from trauma-informed therapy, financial education, community support, and environments that reinforce safety rather than chaos. Rebuilding is a process of reparenting the self. Survivors must learn, often for the first time, how to regulate emotions, make decisions, trust their perceptions, and build a stable internal world. This is not weakness, it is the natural work of healing after prolonged psychological domination. Systems often fail survivors, so self-advocacy becomes essential. Just as the legal system failed to provide a transition plan, many survivors find that institutions don't understand the depth of trauma caused by narcissistic control. Learning to advocate for trauma-informed care, boundaries, and gradual steps toward independence becomes part of the recovery journey. Now let's go over a few focused tools and resources for survivors going no contact from narcissistic relationships. When survivors choose to go no contact from a narcissistic family system or another form of dysfunctional relationship, they begin a powerful journey of healing and reclamation. The first step is emotional safety. While learning grounding techniques like breath work and sensory awareness, practicing emotional regulation, and rewriting internalized gaslighting with affirmations that restore self-worth. Cognitive reprogramming follows, where survivors challenge distorted beliefs, engage in reality checking, and begin inner child work to heal roles like scapegoat or golden child. Journaling becomes a vital tool for tracking progress and reclaiming identity, while creative expression and values clarification help rebuild a sense of self. Boundaries are essential while survivors learn to set clear limits, block toxic access, and create safe environments. Financial autonomy is another pillar. Budgeting, separating accounts, and recognizing financial abuse patterns allow survivors to take back control. Support systems matter deeply, and trauma-informed therapists, survivor communities, and educational resources offer validation and guidance. Detachment strategies that are emotional, cognitive, behavioral, and spiritual can help survivors release the psychological grip of the narcissistic system. Crisis prevention tools like relapse plans and red flag checklists keep survivors grounded when nostalgia or manipulation resurfaces. And finally, long-term healing requires somatic trauma work, relationship skill building, and the restoration of self-trust. Above all, survivors are reminded investing in yourself is not selfish, it's sacred. Going no contact isn't just an escape. It's the beginning of thriving forward.
Let's talk about something that so often stays hidden in the shadows. It's a type of control that doesn't leave any visible marks, but believe me, it can be just as damaging. We're talking about narcissistic financial abuse. So many people live through this for years before they even find the words for it. So today, we're going to put a name to it and break down exactly how it works. And this quote, wow, it just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? That late-night search is such a specific, lonely moment. It's that point where the numbers on the screen, the withdrawals, the missing funds, the debt, start screaming a story that you just can't ignore anymore. So where does this all start? Well, it almost never begins with a big, obvious red flag. No, it's way more subtle than that. It creeps in disguised as something else entirely, something that looks a lot like love. Let's dig into how that control is first disguised as care. It so often starts with an offer that sounds wonderful, right? Hey, don't you worry about the bills. I've got this. It feels like such a relief. You feel seen, you feel taken care of, and at first, it actually feels pretty good. And then, things might escalate a bit. The offer gets bigger. It's not just about handling the bills anymore. It starts to touch your independence, your career. It's framed as protection from the big, bad world. That job is so stressful for you. Why don't you just quit? I'll take care of everything. And just like that, dependency is sold to you as security. And then the mask comes off. What was sold as generosity, what was framed as protection, it was really just building the architecture for total control. The goal was never to care for you. It was to make you completely and utterly dependent. So let's be super clear about what we're actually talking about here. This isn't about one partner being better with budgets. Financial abuse is the deliberate restriction of your ability to make money, to get to your money, or to manage your money. And it's almost always tangled up with gaslighting and emotional attacks that make you doubt your own sanity. Let's look at some of the common tactics. You've got the invisible chains. No physical bruises, but suddenly you don't have the PIN to your own debit card. Then there's weaponized competence. They constantly tell you you're just bad with money to justify keeping all the accounts and passwords secret. And maybe the most terrifying, debt used as a leash, taking out loans in your name, making you feel financially trapped and like you can never, ever leave. And it is so critical to understand that this dynamic does not only happen in romantic relationships. For so many people, this starts in childhood. Leaving a narcissistic family can feel like escaping a cult, because that blend of financial and emotional control was woven into your life from the very beginning. The chains were forged a long, long time ago. But for every person trapped in this cycle, there's a potential turning point. It's that moment where the fog starts to lift, just a little, and the truth of the situation becomes impossible to deny. The moment of reckoning. So what is that turning point? What does it look like? For some, it's a huge shock, finding a secret credit card statement with a massive balance. But for others, it's just the slow, painful realization after 1,000 tiny cuts. Either way, this is usually when the search for answers truly begins. And that search often looks a lot like this. First, you find articles that just give it a name, Financial Abuse 101, and it's a huge moment of validation. Then you might dig deeper into guides on covert narcissism that point out all the subtle tactics you've been experiencing. And then finally, you start to find articles on recovery, articles that offer something you desperately need, hope. This right here, this is the perspective shift that changes everything. You need to understand that you're not just breaking up with a person, you are staging a jailbreak. You are exiting an entire economic system that was built from the ground up to exploit you. It's a monumental act of liberation. Okay, so if leaving is like exiting a whole system, how on earth do you do it? Well, one of the most powerful strategies is something called detachment, but it's probably not what you think it is. This is so important because when people hear detachment, they think it means being cold or not caring. That's not it at all. Detachment isn't an emotional reaction. It is a deliberate, strategic choice. It's about consciously rerouting your time, your energy, and yes, your financial resources away from them and back toward the one person who matters most right now, you. And this is why detachment is so necessary. You have to accept this fundamental truth. You cannot change someone who doesn't want to change. You can't reach someone who doesn't want to be reached. Once you truly accept that, you can stop pouring your resources, your money, your love, your hope into a black hole that will never, ever give anything back. So once you've started to create that space for yourself through detachment, what's the next step? You arm yourself. And in this fight, your most powerful weapon is knowledge. Financial literacy isn't just about spreadsheets. It's about liberation. First off, knowledge calms the chaos. The fear of ending up on the street is a massive weapon abusers use. But when you actually sit down and look at the real numbers, what you have, what you owe, what you can earn, that overwhelming panic starts to get replaced with clarity. Knowledge takes away their weapon of fear. Next, on a mental level, literacy helps you rewrite the story. You can finally challenge those lies you were fed, like you're just bad with money. You start adding up the real cost of the relationship, the lost wages, the debt they ran up, the career you put on hold. Suddenly, they don't look like a provider anymore. They look like a massive financial liability. And finally, all that knowledge gets turned into action. When you understand your financial situation, you have the confidence and the clear roadmap to start making moves. You can open your own bank account, freeze your credit, and build a budget that is all about your future, not theirs. And that brings us to our final section, the actual work of rebuilding. This is where you shift from just surviving to actively thriving. It's about using specific, concrete tools to take back your life and, yes, your financial worth. Think of this as your 4-point plan for recovery. Number 1, invest in you for a change, whether that's therapy, a new certification, whatever it takes. 2, create a safe place, like a journal, to document everything that happened. 3, discontinue your availability. You are no longer on call. And 4, Make your healing the #1 priority, one small step at a time. And let's get really practical about what discontinuing availability means for your finances. It means you are no longer available to co-sign that car loan. You are no longer available to have your name on a joint credit card. You are no longer available to bail them out of trouble. In short, the bank of you is officially closed for business. Let's end with this because it is so incredibly important. Getting your finances in order isn't some separate, boring chore you do after you heal. No, it is an essential part of the healing itself. Every time you check your own bank balance, every dollar you put into your own savings account, that is an act of defiance. It's an act of reclaiming your power. For a long time, someone else was writing a story using your bank statements, a story of dependence and control. But that story is over. Now you get to pick up the pen. You are the author. So the only question left is the one on the screen. What's the first line in your new story?